Today, the groups commonly referred to as Pygmies prefer to be called by their own names, such as Twa, Baka, Aka, Ake, Bongo, Mbuti, and Benga. The term pygmy, which means as tall as a cubit, was originally used by ancient Greek authors like Homer to describe these peoples based on their short stature. This label was adopted later by Western scholars, a label that unfortunately persists. The term pygmy is a derogatory designation for this group of people who have deep roots in African history and spirituality. For the rest of this video, we will use the term Twa to refer to our African cousins. You may have heard of the tragic story of Ota Benga, a young man from the Democratic Republic of Congo who was displayed in a zoo in New York City. Ota Benga, a member of the Mbuti people from the Congo, was tragically displayed in a cage at the Bronx Zoo in New York City in the early 1900s after being captured by slave traders. His life was irrevocably changed when he was brought to the United States and exhibited as a curiosity alongside apes. This dehumanizing spectacle reduced him to an object of ridicule, stripping him of his dignity and autonomy. Despite his eventual release from the zoo due to public outcry, Benga struggled to adapt to life in America and never recovered from the trauma of his experiences. Overwhelmed by despair and isolation, he ended his life in 1916. The Twa are regarded as one of the oldest groups in some regions of Africa, predating the taller black populations that predominantly inhabit the continent today. While surrounded by myths, the true history of the Pygmies remains largely unknown to the broader public. The Twa were among the first inhabitants of the Sahara's immense forests before they became deserts. As these regions became less habitable, the Twa migrated to more favorable areas. One of the key characteristics of the Twa is their short stature, averaging 144 centimeters. Historical accounts describe their unique cultural practices and their presence in ancient societies. Twa populations in Africa share a common ancestor, traced back to Homo sapiens like Homo I from Ethiopia, dating back to about 200,000 years ago. Historically, the Twa have played significant roles in royal courts, especially in ancient Kemet, where they were seen as mediators with the divine. Known as dancers of God, they served as musicians, singers, and entertainers, believed to ward off evil spirits with their performances. Their artistry was also employed in delicate tasks, such as goldsmithing, where they excelled in polishing and assembling intricate pieces. Considered among the earliest inhabitants of Africa, the Twa have traced migratory paths from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic, deeply influencing the development of African civilizations. So how did ancient Greek authors come to know about the Twa? The connection started with the ancient Greeks' interactions with the peoples of the Nile Valley, which includes modern-day Egypt and Sudan. It was through these interactions with the civilizations of this region that the Greeks first learned about the Twa. Notably, not all Greek writers had direct encounters with pygmies. Some only knew of them through stories and thus considered them mythical figures. Evidence of the interactions between the Nile Valley Africans and the Greeks can also be seen in Roman art, like the frescoes in Pompeii that depict the Twa. Respect for the Twa within the Nile Valley region is well documented during the Pharaonic era. The people of Kemet and Nubia revered them, often symbolizing them through the deity known as Bez, who was not only associated with dance but also considered a protector of households. They acted as intercessors with divine powers, serving as dancers of God, musicians, singers, and mimics to protect the pharaoh from evil spirits. Their music is said to have brought joy to the pharaoh. Bes was specifically identified as being distinct from a dwarf. The people of Kemet referred to the Twa as Deneg, and dwarfs as Nemu. This distinction shows the significant role the Twa played in ancient Kemetic society. The pharaonic civilization maintained vital and ongoing connections with various indigenous groups within the continent, which were essential for understanding their heritage. The people of Kemet clearly stated that their ancestors originated from Nubia and the core regions of Africa. These central areas of Africa, known as Ta Njer, meaning the land of God or the Holy Land, were considered the cradle of Kemetic civilization and humanity itself. This region, encompassing places like the Great Lakes, Central and Southern Africa, included mythical locations such as Punt, Yam, and the land of the spirits. The Twa, who lived in these revered regions, were thus seen as divine beings. When pharaohs encountered the Twa, they honored them greatly. To understand why, we must consider the figure of the god Bes, who symbolized the Twa in ancient Kemetic culture. In ancient Kemet, the god Bes played a crucial role as a protector against evil forces. His fierce or grimacing face was believed to repel negative energies and spirits. Jean-Charles Couvi-Gomez, a Beninese Egyptologist, explains that the name Bes also extends to variations like Besi, Besu, and Base in Pharaonic language, alluding to both the deity and the concept of initiation. Bes's name has various explanations, possibly meaning to initiate, to emerge, or to protect. He may symbolize a prematurely born child or fetus wrapped in a lion's skin, protecting mother and child. This term continues to hold significance in the rituals among the Bassa people of Cameroon, who trace their origins back to Kemet. For the people of Kemet, the Twa, who dwelled in the sacred regions known as the Holy Land, were seen as the original keepers of knowledge and the pioneers of spiritual initiation. They were revered as the first initiates, imparting wisdom to Kemet's highest religious authorities, including the pharaohs. This deep connection is why the god Bes is synonymous with initiation. Depictions often show him masked, grimacing, and dancing, symbolizing his role in warding off evil spirits. Bes was depicted as a dwarf with a lion's mane, ears, and tail, sometimes wearing a leopard's skin. His grotesque appearance allowed him to scare away demons. Adorned with a leopard skin, similar to that worn by pharaonic priests, Bes symbolized protection. He was considered all-knowing in matters of safeguarding humans from life's dangers, illnesses, misfortunes, malevolent forces, and natural threats. Bes was present in homes, guarding against negative energies and nightmares. Amulets and ornaments bearing his image were commonly used for personal protection, and during significant life events like childbirth, weddings, and various ceremonies, ensuring their auspicious progression. Moreover, Bes was regarded as the master of sacred music and dance, integral to religious rites and festivals. This mastery over celebratory arts is why pygmies were often referred to as the dancers of Imana, generally known as God. The cult of Bes, though present since the Old Kingdom with Merenre I and Pepi Neferkare, gained remarkable prominence from the 11th dynasty onward. He was venerated until the end of the Pharaonic era, and even after the rise of Christianity, Egyptians remained devoted to him. His worship extended around the Mediterranean, including Greece, Rome, Cyprus, and Phoenicia. Bes reflected multiple divine functions in his pantheistic form, becoming a universal protector. These are key locations featuring Bes. Philae, depicted playing musical instruments. Temple of Mut at Karnak, representations in the entrance pylon. Temple of Khnum at Esna, depicted on a column. Sedeinga, an amulet of Bes found, linked to Queen T. Tattoo and amulets. Bes is seen as a protective tattoo on a musician and on amulets worn by Nubian girls. The headrest here takes the form of a folding stool, with legs resembling feline paws. On either side of the headrest, a head of the god Bes is sculpted. Bes protects the sleeper or the deceased, who is to experience a new birth. Bes not only watches over the unborn child, but also ensures the full development and rebirth of premature infants in the afterlife. The headrest symbolizes awakening after sleep, death, and resurrection. A fragment of the decoration on Satamon's royal chair shows two dancing Bes figures flanking the goddess Taweret. This decor was part of a royal chair placed by the royal wife Satamon, daughter of Amenhotep III, in the tomb of her grandparents, parents-in-law of Amenhotep III. These were Yuya and Tuya. The scene depicts Taweret with prominent breasts, standing on her legs, mouth open, tongue out, a crocodile on her back. A powerful and joyful satirical scene, reminiscent of Greek satyrs of the 5th century BCE. In the Bahariya oasis, in the main city of Bawiti, the remains of a temple dedicated to Bes were found. The temple, dating to the Greek period, continued to be used until the 4th century CE. At the archaeological site of Kuntilet Ajrud in northeastern Sinai, ruins of an ancient fortress of the Kingdom of Judah from the 9th and 8th centuries BCE were found. Bes figurines from this site and others, like Lachish and Tel El Safi, suggest Bes was known in Iron Age Palestine as a protective demon, especially during pregnancy and childbirth. In ancient times, during the decline of the pharaonic civilization, many tall black populations were forced out of the Nile Valley by invading forces from Persia, Greece, Rome, and Arab regions. They spread throughout Africa, encountering the Twa and other related groups. Clashes over resources often turned these groups into adversaries, and the Twa, frequently defeated, were driven deeper into forested areas. It was during this period of displacement that the perception of the Twa began to deteriorate. Originally revered in pharaonic culture, they came to be viewed with disdain, especially by the arriving groups who would be known as the Bantus. This negative view was exacerbated when European colonizers, obsessed with human origins, misinterpreted the Twa, who were of small stature, as a sign of primitiveness, likening them to early human ancestors like Homo erectus. Throughout the colonial era, this misguided perception led to numerous exploitative studies to test their intellectual capabilities, furthering the stereotype of the Twa as backward and primitive. Today, the Twa live in various communities, some sedentary and some semi-nomadic, sustaining themselves through hunting, fishing, gathering, and farming. Despite their rich knowledge of medicinal plants and recognition as healers, they often face exploitation and neglect. Their natural habitats are frequently destroyed for resource extraction, and they have little political influence in Central Africa and other Great Lakes states. Even with ongoing discrimination, their deep understanding of natural medicine has attracted Western pharmaceutical companies eager to tap into their knowledge, often offering minimal compensation. Let us remember the profound role the Twa and related groups played in the history of Africa. Until the lions have their own historians, the tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.